He told his men he would never kneel for any woman, especially not a black woman. But when she walked into that room wearing nothing but black lace and quiet fury, he forgot his own name. And by the time he remembered it, she already owned him. But before we get to that moment, before we get to the part where the most feared mafia boss in New York lost every ounce of control he had ever built, let me take you back to the beginning, because what happened that night did not just change his life. It destroyed everything he believed about power, about people, and about himself. The bar sat underneath a building in Lower Manhattan that did not exist on any map. No sign outside, no windows, just a steel door and two men who never smiled. Inside, the air was thick with whiskey and silence. The kind of silence that meant someone powerful was thinking, and everyone else was afraid to breathe. At the far end of a long black table sat Jin Woo, 34 years old. Sharp jaw, cold eyes. A face that could have belonged to a model, but instead belonged to the man who controlled most of New York's Korean underground. He had built his empire on fear and precision. Every operation ran on time, every debt was collected, every enemy was handled before they became a problem. Tonight, he was meeting with his top enforcers about an arms deal worth 8 figures. The financing was coming from a Korean conglomerate overseas, and everything needed to be clean. No mistakes, no loose ends. His right-hand man, Jay, leaned in close. "Boss, the consultant from the financing group is here. She just arrived." Jin Woo did not look up from his notes. Name? Aaliyah West. Something shifted in Jin Woo's expression, a tightening around his jaw, a coldness that went beyond his usual demeanor. He set his pen down slowly. "Black woman?" he asked, his voice flat. Jay hesitated. "Yes." Jin Woo leaned back in his chair. "I do not like black women. They are trouble. Get rid of her." The words came out like they had been said 100 times before, because they had. Jin Woo held prejudices the way some men held weapons, close to the chest and always ready. Jay shifted uncomfortably. "I cannot. The conglomerate insisted on her. If we reject their consultant, we lose the financing, and the deal collapses." Jin Woo stared at him. The rage behind his eyes was quiet, but sharp. "Fine," he said. "She stays, but she will not last a week." Then the door opened, and time stopped. Aaliyah West stepped into that room like she had been born to stand in places that were not built for her. She was tall. Her skin was deep brown and flawless under the dim light. She wore a fitted black dress with intricate lace detailing that traced the curves of her body like a whispered secret. But it was not the dress that made every man in that room stop talking. It was the way she carried herself, like she already knew every name, every lie, and every weakness sitting at that table. Her eyes moved across the room slowly. She was not impressed. She was not intimidated. She was calculating. Jin Woo's chest tightened. His breath caught somewhere between his throat and his pride. He tried to look away. He could not. Something about her presence hit him in a place he did not know existed, a place beneath the power, beneath the control, somewhere raw and unprotected. She walked past every enforcer without a glance, past Jay, past the armed man by the wall. She pulled out the chair directly across from Jin Woo, the seat nobody ever took, sat down, crossed her legs, and looked him dead in the eyes. She said nothing. She just waited. Jin Woo forced his voice steady. "You are not what I expected." Aaliyah tilted her head slightly. "And what were you expecting?" Before he could answer, she slid a black folder across the table. Inside were photographs. 3 of Jin Woo's most trusted men sitting in a restaurant with Kang Dae-sung, the head of a rival syndicate that had been trying to destroy Jin Woo's empire for years. "You have a leak," Aaliyah said calmly. "I found it in 48 hours. Your people missed it for 6 months. Now, do you still want to get rid of me?" The room went dead silent. Jin Woo stared at the photographs. then at her, his fists clenched under the table, not from anger, from fear, because this woman had just walked into his world and proven she was smarter than everyone in it, including him. Jinwoo ordered Jae to verify the photographs that same night. By morning, the truth was confirmed. 3 of his inner circle had been meeting with Kang Dae-sung for months, feeding him information about routes, shipments, and safe houses. Jinwoo's empire had been bleeding, and he hadn't even noticed. But what shook him worse than the betrayal was who had found it. Not Jay, who had been by his side for a decade, not his intelligence team, who were paid to catch exactly this, a woman he had wanted to fire before she even walked through the door. He called Aaliyah to a private meeting. His intention was to reassert control, remind her she was temporary, disposable. But Aaliyah sat across from him with the same calm she carried everywhere, and she said something that cut deeper than any blade. You surround yourself with loyalty based on fear. Fear expires. That's why your people sell you out. Jinwoo's jaw tightened. And what do you know about loyalty? She did not answer. She just smiled, but it was not playful. It was heavy, full of pain and history, and something she wasn't ready to share. Over the next several days, Jinwoo watched her work. She was relentless. Every file reorganized, every process improved. She moved through his operation like a surgeon. She never flirted, never laughed too loudly, never once tried to impress anyone. And that drove him insane. He started losing sleep. Her image crept into his thoughts at 3 a.m. The lace on her dress, the steadiness in her voice, the way she looked straight through him like his power meant nothing. Jay noticed. Boss, she's a stranger. Don't let her get in your head. She's not in my head, Jinwoo snapped, but they both knew that was a lie. Late one night, Jinwoo returned to the operations room and found Aaliyah alone. She was on the phone, speaking in hushed but flawless Korean. Not textbook sentences, perfect, natural Korean, the kind that came from years of immersion. She had never told anyone she spoke the language. When she noticed him in the doorway, she ended the call immediately. For 1 second, her expression changed. Fear. Real fear. She covered it instantly, but Jinwoo caught it. Who was she talking to, and what was she hiding? Jinwoo had Aaliyah followed. He told himself it was about security. It was not. It was about the terror of realizing she was already operating beyond his reach. The surveillance came back clean. Too clean. A small apartment in Brooklyn, no luxury, no visible ties, but every Saturday morning she visited a children's community center and taught young girls self-defense. That detail lingered with Jinwoo. It didn't match the cold operative he saw at work. It made her human, and that terrified him more than anything. Then the crisis hit. A deal went wrong at a waterfront warehouse. Shots fired. Jinwoo's driver took a bullet. In the chaos, Aaliyah moved first. She dragged the man to cover, applied pressure to the wound, and called for extraction using Jinwoo's own emergency protocols. Protocols she had never been given. Afterward, in his armored car, rain streaking down the windows, her hands still stained with blood, Jinwoo demanded answers. How did you know those codes? Because the man who created them taught me, she said quietly. Your father. The words landed like a bomb in a silent room. Jinwoo's father had founded the syndicate, died 7 years ago. Officially a heart attack. Jinwoo inherited everything and never questioned it. Your father mentored people outside this organization, Aaliyah continued. People like my mother, Grace West. People he trusted more than his own men. Jinwoo felt the ground disappear beneath him. This woman was not a stranger. She was connected to the deepest root of everything he had ever known. He grabbed her wrist, not hard, but firm. What happened to your mother? Aaliyah's eyes changed. Confidence cracked. What filled the space was grief so raw it almost had a sound. The same people you are doing business with, she said. They happened to her. She pulled free, opened the car door, and stepped into the rain without looking back. Jinwoo sat alone in the dark, heart hammering. The woman he tried to dismiss was not a consultant. She was on a mission, and it was aimed directly at the heart of his world. Sleep became impossible. Jinwoo spent 2 nights pulling files from his father's hidden safe, documents he had never opened. What he found changed everything. Letters between his father and Grace West, dozens of them. A professional partnership built on trust and respect. Grace had helped move money through legitimate channels, but the letters also carried warmth, friendship, maybe something deeper. The final letter was unfinished, dated 2 weeks before his father's death. Grace, they know about the accounts. Get Aaliyah out of the country. I will handle Kong. If something happens to me... It stopped there. Kang Dae-sung, the same man whose people had been infiltrating Jinwoo's organization. His father did not die of a heart attack. He was murdered. Jinwoo found Aaliyah at midnight, his voice barely a whisper. Did they kill him? They killed both of them, your father and my mother, 3 days apart. 2 parents, 2 murders, buried so deep that a son and a daughter grew up carrying grief without knowing the truth. Aaliyah had spent years piecing it together. She did not come here as a consultant. She came to identify the traitors still inside Jinwoo's organization, gather evidence, and destroy them from within. But she had not expected him. She was told he was cold and unreachable. Instead, she was watching him break apart, and the cracks were showing something she was not prepared for. Jinwoo looked at her. I need your help. 3 words that cost him more than any deal he had ever made. Aaliyah's condition was immediate. No violence, no revenge killings. We expose them legally and protect the people they would hurt next. Every instinct screamed to refuse, but he nodded, and the most feared mafia boss in New York handed his power to the woman he once swore he would never respect. They worked in secret, a hidden room above the bar. No cameras, no witnesses, just the 2 of them and files that could burn everything down. The nights grew long, the tension shifted. What started as suspicion became something else. Proximity, silence that felt heavy, touches that lingered half a second too long. Jinwoo caught himself watching her hands as she worked, the curve of her neck when she read, the way she tucked her hair behind her ear when she was thinking. He was furious at himself, not because she was black. That lie had already begun dissolving. He was furious because he was starting to understand that his prejudice was never about her. It was armor, protection against feeling anything real. Aaliyah felt the shift too. She fought it, reminded herself why she was there. Justice. Not this. Not him. If stories that mix real danger with real emotion pull you in, subscribe now. Because what happens next between these 2 will test everything they believe about each other. Then Kang made his move. He sent a woman named Soo-yeon to get close to Jinwoo. Beautiful, strategic, a honey trap wrapped in designer silk and rehearsed laughter. At a dinner meeting with Jinwoo's associates, Soo-yeon leaned close, touched his arm, whispered something that made the men around the table grin. Her perfume filled the space between them like a weapon. Aaliyah lurched from across the room. Her face showed nothing, her posture stayed perfect, but under the table her hands gripped the cloth napkin until her knuckles went white. She told herself it did not matter. She was here for justice, not for him. But the heat behind her ribs told a different story. Later that night, Jinwoo caught Aaliyah leaving through the back entrance. You are angry. I am focused. That is not focus. I know what focus looks like on you. That is something else. She turned, eyes blazing. Do not flatter yourself. But her voice cracked, just barely, just enough. The next morning, Taehyun, one of the identified moles, walked into the hidden room while Aaliyah was alone. He saw the files. His face changed. Aaliyah looked up calmly. Looking for something? He reached for his phone. She reached for the blade under the table. The door was locked. They were alone. Aaliyah handled Taehyun with words, not violence, convinced him the files were decoys planted to test loyalty. He left. She called Jinwoo. Her voice was steady, but he heard the tremor underneath. He arrived in minutes. When he saw her, composed but pale, something broke open inside him. He walked to her, close enough to feel her breath. "If anything happened to you." He stopped. Finishing meant admitting the truth. Aaliyah looked up. The masks fell. "You were supposed to be the enemy," she whispered. "You were supposed to be temporary," he answered. "Stay with me. This is where everything changes. And if you've ever believed people can grow beyond their worst beliefs, you are exactly who this channel was made for. Subscribe." The tension broke with honesty. Jinwoo told her about his uncle, the man who raised him after his father died and filled his head with hatred. How hating was easier than feeling. How she had dismantled every lie he ever believed just by being herself. Aaliyah shared her side, growing up without a mother, raised by her grandmother in Brooklyn, training for years to find the people who destroyed her family. She told him she almost turned down this assignment because she was warned Jinwoo was just like them. He flinched because he almost was. Then both their phones buzzed. A journalist had published a story linking Jinwoo's organization to unsolved murders, including Grace West's death. Someone else knew what they were doing, and they had just blown the operation open. Aaliyah looked at him. "We are out of time. The leak forced everything into the open." Kang released a statement framing Jinwoo as the sole criminal. Aaliyah traced the leak. Only 5 people had access to the information. One of them was Jay. Jinwoo refused to believe it, but the evidence was clean. Offshore payments linked to Kang for 2 years. The confrontation was quiet and devastating. Jinwoo placed the records on the table. Jay's face crumbled. "Kang threatened my sister," Jay whispered. "He said he would sell her into trafficking. I was not betraying you. I was trying to save her. I have been trapped for 2 years." Jinwoo stared at his oldest friend, a traitor and a victim. The moral dilemma burned. Was Jay wrong for what he did, or would you have done the same to save someone you love? Drop your answer in the comments. While Jinwoo processed, Aaliyah's phone rang, a voice she did not recognize. "Come alone to Pier 17 by midnight, or the old woman sees morning from the bottom of the river." They had taken her grandmother, the only family she had left. Aaliyah did not tell Jinwoo. She wrote a letter containing everything, the full map of Kang's network, names, accounts, dates, left it on his desk. If she did not return, he would have enough to destroy them all. Jinwoo found it 30 minutes later. Terror hit him, not for his empire, for her. He grabbed Jay. "You owe me a debt. Tonight you pay it." At Pier 17, the wind cut across the water like a blade. Aaliyah faced Kang for the first time. He was not what she expected. Calm, polished, almost charming in the way predators sometimes are. He wore a tailored coat and spoke softly, like a man who never needed to raise his voice because his threats always landed on the first try. He offered a simple trade, the evidence for her grandmother's life. Aaliyah's grandmother sat in a metal chair near the water's edge, frail, shaking from the cold. But when her eyes met Aaliyah's, something fierce burned behind them. The old woman shook her head slowly. "Don't you dare give them what your mother died for." Right now, only a small number of you are subscribed. If you feel what this grandmother is feeling, that some things are worth more than safety, subscribe. You belong here. Aaliyah refused the deal, threw the case into the water. Kang's men drew weapons. Then Jinwoo stepped from the shadows, not with guns, with a phone, live streaming the entire confrontation to law enforcement and 3 news networks. Kang froze, exposed in real time. Jay had already moved the grandmother to safety. Sirens approached. Kang tried to run. Aaliyah blocked his path, didn't touch him, just stood there. "You killed my mother. You threatened my grandmother, and you thought I would fold? You don't know what black women are made of." Kang was arrested, but as they led him away, he smiled at Jinwoo. "Ask your woman what really happened the night your father died. Ask her what her mother actually did." Jinwoo looked at Aaliyah. She looked away. A new crack formed. Jinwoo demanded the full truth. Grace West had discovered that Jinwoo's father was planning to leave the criminal world entirely, testify against Kang, start clean. Grace was building his exit strategy, but someone inside Jinwoo's own family tipped Kang off. Not a rival, Jinwoo's uncle. The man who raised him, the man who taught him everything, including his hatred of black women. His uncle traded his own brother's life for control of the organization. Jinwoo's identity collapsed. The prejudice was never wisdom, it was a weapon, designed to keep him away from anyone connected to Grace, anyone who might help him discover the truth. If he ever got close to a woman like Aaliyah, the lie would unravel. And it just did. He pushed Aaliyah away. "You knew?" "I did not know about your uncle," she said, her voice breaking. "I only knew about Kang." He disappeared for 3 days. On the third night, Aaliyah found him on the rooftop garden his father built, sitting alone in the cold. She did not comfort him. She sat beside him and spoke. "My mother died because she believed your father was worth saving. She believed that even inside the ugliest world, people can choose differently. I came here believing you could not. You proved me wrong. Do not prove me right now." If you have made it this far, this story is not just entertainment. It is something you feel. That means you are one of us. Subscribe because the ending will stay with you. Jinwoo looked at her. No walls, no mask. Just a man realizing the woman he tried to hate was the only person who had ever told him the truth. He stood, took her hand. "We finish this together, but after, I need to tell you something I have never said to anyone." "What?" "After." They walked into the night. Jinwoo confronted his uncle with evidence and witnesses, the offshore accounts, the communications with Kang, the timeline proving he orchestrated his own brother's murder. His uncle tried one last manipulation. "Everything I did was for you, for our family. That woman is poisoning you." Jinwoo's voice was quiet but final. "You did not build me. You buried me, and she is the one who dug me out." The uncle was handed to federal authorities alongside Kang's network. Jinwoo cooperated fully. His empire was dismantled on his terms, not destroyed, transformed. He built a foundation funding community programs, legal aid, and education. The first center opened in Brooklyn. Aaliyah's grandmother cut the ribbon. Jay's sister was recovered safely. Jay became the foundation's head of security. His loyalty was no longer built on fear. It was earned through redemption. Then came the moment Jinwoo had been carrying since that night on the rooftop. He took Aaliyah to the garden one last time. The city glowed beneath them, 1,000 windows shining like the lives they had saved and the ones they had lost. The air was cold, but neither of them moved to go inside. Jinwoo turned to her. His hands were shaking, not from the wind. "When you walked into that room the first night, in that black dress with those eyes, I told myself I hated you. But I did not hate you. I was terrified, because you were the first person who made me feel like I was not enough. Not my power, not my money, not my name. Just me. And I did not know if the real me was worth anything." He paused. "You showed me he was." Aaliyah's eyes filled. She did not cry. She smiled. The same smile from the first night, except now he understood what lived behind it. Strength, grief, hope. "You were never the villain, Jinwoo. You were just a man who was lied to his whole life. The moment you chose to believe something different, that is when you became someone worth loving." Months later, Jinwoo stood in a school auditorium in Brooklyn, telling his story honestly to a room full of teenagers. The prejudice he carried, the crime he committed, the woman who made him see what he had been too blind and too afraid to look at. A young Korean boy in the front row raised his hand. "Did you really used to hate black people?" The room went quiet. Every eye was on Jinwoo. He did not flinch. "I did, and it was the most expensive mistake I ever made. Not because it cost me money, because it almost cost me the best person I have ever known." He paused and looked out at the young faces staring back at him. Do not let someone else's hatred become your truth, because the person you refuse to see might be the one who saves your life. The final image. Jinwoo and Aaliyah walking through Brooklyn on a rainy night. The same rain from the night they met, but now they walk together. No empire between them, no secrets, just two people who chose to see each other when the world told them not to. This story was about more than romance. It was about the lies we believe about people we have never met, and what happens when life forces us to look closer. If that message matters to you, share this with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe to Tales by Wave, because every story we tell carries a lesson the world needs. Jinwoo once said he would never kneel for any woman, but love does not ask you to kneel. It asks you to stand as someone better than you were yesterday. And that, my friends, is the most dangerous power of all.